phenomenal things in the WNBA. They did phenomenal things for women's basketball that should have been appreciated, but nevertheless were not.
Caitlin Clark is the biggest star in sports, but Nike, in order to promote equity and fairness and diversity and inclusion.
Did you know that Nike's offer to Caitlin Clark was so low, it makes minimum wage look like a jackpot? They offered her $3.5 million a year. That's less than what some NBA bench warmers make for high-fiving their teammates and looking good in suits. Meanwhile, Adidas is over here offering Clark $5 million a year. That's a 43% increase. It's like they're playing Monopoly and Adidas just landed on Boardwalk while Nike is still stuck in Baltic Avenue. Who knew basketball contracts could be more dramatic than a Trump rally? Remember when you thought it was a great move for Nike to sign Caitlin Clark? In actuality, their intelligence is on par with that of a group of pebbles wearing Air Jordans. Nike's 8-year, $28 million contract with Clark seemed obvious at first.
Nike struck absolute gold when they signed Caitlin Clark to an 8-year, $28 million endorsement deal. So why in the world are they ignoring her?
It was like Grumpy Trumpy reading off a teleprompter because of how badly they messed it up. First of all, Nike released Clark's signature footwear later than expected. It's equivalent to promising a youngster a birthday cake when you arrive at their celebration with a half-baked potato. While Clark breaks records one after another and causes buckets to rain like it's monsoon season, Nike sits on its hands as if waiting for a bus that never arrives. In terms of performances that break records, Clark has been lighting up scoreboards more frequently than Trump's legal team has appealed. However, Nike's advertising is conspicuously lacking. Little insects. They seem to have signed her but then ignored her entirely.
Nike has not done one thing to promote her. We have not seen any commercials, we have not seen any ads, we have not seen any Caitlin Clark merchandise.
Meanwhile, every time LeBron James sneezes, Nike plasters his face on billboards from Timbuktu. Just a moment, because things are going to become worse. Nike's mistake is going to cost them dearly. If they do nothing, it could be a breach of contract in addition to being bad business. All of you are correct. Nike may be in even more trouble than Donnie Diapers based on the findings of a lie detector test. By under-promoting Clark and failing to fulfill their promises, they have essentially let her off the hook.
Caitlin Clark is the biggest star in sports, but Nike, in order to promote equity and fairness and diversity and inclusion.
Now, let's compare this to Nike's treatment of LeBron, their most valuable athlete. Nike declares all of King James's speeches to be national holidays. He owns his namesake clothing brands, shoes, and, if they could manage it, his image on the moon. Clark, too. She has a better chance of seeing Bigfoot than her own Nike commercial. Just when you thought Nike had made a bigger mistake than Trump when trying to spell COFF, Adidas shows up on stage left. Isn't 20 million bucks a wonderful deal? There are speculations that Adidas is giving Clark that kind of money. However, there are other parties involved besides the Benjamins. Even though Adidas's tactic is cunning, it makes Nixon look stupid. It's right indeed. Nike quickly treated Clark like a bench warmer, and they swooped down from Adidas with a contract sweeter than Donnie's hairspray. Spread over 4 years, the sum comes to $20 million or $5 million a year. That's double what Nike was distributing. Adidas appears to have taken inspiration from Nike's strategy and opted to improve it. Adidas, in contrast to Trump, isn't just giving Clark money every time he loses his temper. It's obvious that Nike didn't care enough to give her a signature sneaker. Are you joking with me? Nike refused to even consider selling a sneaker with her name on it, despite the fact that she was the most talked about athlete in women's basketball.
But we should have been giving her the credit. We saw the ratings, we saw the merchandise sales, we saw the attendance.
Adidas is preparing to plaster Clark's face across its footwear in the interim. Now pay attention. Adidas has a small secret weapon that makes it appear as though they are playing checkers, but in reality they are playing 4D chess. They want to make Clark a global household name, especially in Europe. America, they appear to be asking. It's very cute. Clark will surpass the European Union in power. Adidas athletes' popularity has frequently surpassed Trump's capacity to disseminate fake news. Did Damian Lillard and James Harden not get discussed back then? Adidas transformed these people into superstars. With Clark, they wish to go one step further and implement it globally. Prepare yourself for a wild journey in your shoes because Clark's contract predicament is as convoluted as Trump's hair in a gale. Has it ever occurred to you that she might quit Nike as soon as you say, just do it? In a spelling bee, Nike will be more anxious than Grumpy Trumpy due to a concealed weapon clause in Clark's contract, known as a breach clause. This legal loophole functions as a form of immunity in the sports world. If Nike doesn't live up to their promise, Clark may bid the swoosh farewell without worrying about being sued to death. But this is when it starts to get juicy, like a Trump steak with ketchup, of course. When it comes to their announcements, Nike has been more irresponsible than Donnie Diapers. They promised to provide Clark a trademark sneaker, but she hasn't gotten anything at all. Suppose you ordered a Big Mac and all you got was the packaging. It makes sense that Clark approaches Adidas as if they were the ship's last hope. It's not quite a sock swap to switch from Nike to Adidas shoelaces. There will be more drama than a Thanksgiving meal with the Trumps. As we speak, Nike's legal staff is probably sharpening their pencils in anticipation of a battle that will be messier than a Mar-a-Lago mud wrestling match.
Phenomenal things in the WNBA. They did phenomenal things for women's basketball that should have been appreciated, but nevertheless were not.
Clark, however, has a benefit that might make Nike regret their pricey shoes. The most concerning aspect is that Clark might depart for Europe before Trump can utter the words witch hunt. Why? The rationale is that European legislation permits athletes to wear several brands without worrying about facing legal consequences. It's equivalent to moving from an authoritarian to a democratic government in shoe terms. While wearing Nike off the court and Adidas on the court, Clark might be giggling uncontrollably. For now, set aside European bidets. High-end shoes and comfortable seats aren't the only thing contributing to Clark's contract volatility. It could start a chain reaction that fundamentally alters women's sports. How exactly? Nike's mistake may have been the assist of the century. Everyone take note, this is not just a contract issue.
A league that was the WNBA, and she is getting paid a measly $28 million for 8 years.
Women's sports marketing is currently going through a significant change. Historically, female athletes have received fewer endorsement deals than their male counterparts. It appears as though everyone has been playing Monopoly the entire time, and everyone looks like a man in a suit. More rapidly than Trump can scream "Cove Fefe" on Twitter, Clark's situation will change. This is more than just a single basketball player's predicament. The intention is to present a novel perspective on how companies view and assist female athletes. Imagine a society in which female athletes are recognized for the superstars they are, rather than being viewed as nothing more than promotional items. Take a moment to process that. Why shouldn't other women be able to sign a $20 million contract with Adidas and capitalize on Clark's talent?
Understand how a brand like Nike, who has had athletes like Serena Williams, like LeBron James.
Similar like dominoes, but instead of little tiles, there are multi-million-dollar contracts. Every business will be vying to sign the next big female athlete as soon as she becomes available. The WNBA ought to be added as well. Perhaps this will force them to finally compensate their athletes for their true value. Don't worry about taking up odd jobs or traveling overseas to perform. WNBA players might eventually make the same money as NBA players. It is absurd, is it not? Like Trump's hairstyle in a wind tunnel, only more insane. The true pain, though, is that women's sports might benefit from this entire mess. You were right about what you heard. Because of all this controversy, brands may be more competitive to sign female athletes. Are you aware of the importance of competition? Better offers, more exposure, and maybe even recognition. Everyone wins, except for our arteries, of course, when many fast food restaurants vie to serve the tastiest chicken sandwich.